Good morning. With 7 children, my wife and I, a few of those who joined us along the way, my wife and I have traveled slowly in over 30 countries and 5 continents for the last 10 years. And it's been a journey that has been as life-altering as it has been unbelievable. We've ridden sandboards and dromedaries in the Sahara. We've jumped from the highest bungee jump and climbed the highest mountain in Central America and enjoyed the majesty of Mayan ruins and Roman relics across Europe. And in 2 weeks, I'm hiking up to Everest Base Camp with my son. Just a few of the wonderful things we've been able to do in our life story. But my story, my epic life story, begins as a tragedy. My dad left before I was born. And growing up, stepdads came and went. And I left my home at a young age and ended up at 16 struggling desperately to make a life for myself. Often hungry and lonely and hurting and desperate, and the worst of it was the loneliness. On my first Christmas Eve by myself, I sat huddled in a thin blanket in a cold, tiny room in a shack of a house in the bad part of town. To pass the time, I watched my breath condense in the frigid air. And it was a horrible night of despair and despondency. But it was also a special night when I felt the love of God, and a pivotal night when I made a decision to do something meaningful with my life, a decision that would change the course of my life. I decided to be a family man, and I decided to live an epic story. And so my transformation from a tragedy to triumph began as I voraciously sought the secrets to true happiness and success, those critical elements for living a truly great life story. And I'm standing here as evidence that I found them. And I realized over those 20 years of studying and researching the people, great lives of men and women, that these principles are universal and can totally transform our lives if we'll identify, accept, and apply them. But transformation isn't always easy. It takes time and effort, and if we try to rush the process or skip the uncomfortable parts, we cheat ourselves. And so these lessons that I've learned, these principles that I learned over all those years, and I'm still studying voraciously, have power. No matter where we stand in life right now, they have power to transform our lives and make our lives better. So I've condensed these secrets into 10 elements that I'm going to share with you. But first, we all have to ask ourselves one critical question. Why is it that you want to live an epic story? I think everyone wants to live a great story, but few people have a why that's strong enough to get them through the how. Let that sink in. Few people have a why that's strong enough to get them through the how. Now, the fact that you're here shows me that you have a why. You refuse to live a mediocre existence or just an okay life. You're not satisfied with the rat race or the humdrum existence or going through the motions or waiting for someday, because as we all know, someday never comes. As we were overlanding from Alaska down to Panama, we came across a retired couple in the United States. And I told her what we were doing. And she teared up and she looked at me intently and she said, "You go do it. You live your dream with your family." She said, "For 41 years, my husband worked in the mine. Every year we told ourselves we'd go do something special with our children. And we never did. Then she said, when we told ourselves, well, when we retire, then we'll take the kids and the grandkids, we'll go live a great adventure, we'll do those awesome things." And then in huge sobs of remorse, breaking down right in front of me, she said, "He's been retired for 11 years, and we never did it." They had forfeited their opportunity to live their epic story. My friends, let's refuse to let our lives be a mere existence of near-life experiences. We can get out and really live. Now, I promised to share 10 elements of living an epic life, but it comes with a warning. living an epic life can't be reduced to tips and tricks. Right? It has to come from the heart. And the ancient meaning of the heart is where all the soul and the spirit and the emotion and the power comes. And true great living is born there and starts there. So traveling, seeing great sights, having money and lots of nice things, that's all great. But those are mere appendages. Living a truly great life story is determined by who we are and how we live. So here we go. The 10 elements of those who live an epic life story. Number 1, they cultivate and protect their most important relationships. So although some adventures and experiences are wonderful when we're alone, life is better when we live it with those we love. And it's even better when we cultivate those important relationships. And as you guys know, having children brings more wonder and awe to life, but it also brings more humor. One evening, we were sitting at the dinner table. My wife was very pregnant, and one of my children just stops the conversation and says, "Hey, Mom, if you lay down on your belly and we sit on your head and your feet, you'll be a teeter-totter." Kids just make life awesome. Let's cultivate and protect our most important relationships. Failure to work on making them better is by default accepting that they'll be mediocre or even worse. 2, those who live an epic life story have vision, goals, and plans, right? None of us can hit a target that we can't see, and especially one we don't have. We can't hit a target we can't see, especially one we don't have. So every one of us has to have a vision. We have to have a clear vision of where we're going. You have to see it and feel it. We have to have big goals that move us towards that vision and clear plans that help us achieve those goals. John Goddard, who lived, at 14 years old, sat down and wrote down 127 major goals and truly lived an adventurous life. He said, if you don't plan it, it won't happen. High achievers plan every month, every quarter, and every year. They're voracious about going where they want to go. None of us would build a dream home without a plan, a building plan. None of us would build a dream business without a business plan. How can we expect to build a dream life without a life plan? And this element of vision, goals, and plans is so undeniably evident in the lives of the high performers that I've studied. I actually went ahead and created an epic life planner for myself that has a major goal for the year, big goals for each month, and then clear plans to reach those goals that keeps me on track. I have an invitation for you. Every morning, I invite you to get up and literally rewrite your number 1 goal. Only one of 2 things will happen. Either you'll stop writing down your goal or you'll achieve it. 3, those who live an epic life story avoid the pitfalls. So books, stories, case studies abound of those who've fallen into the traps of dishonesty, addiction, distraction, or anything that weakens control or prevents freedom. And it prevents those from living a great story. So let's do everything we can to avoid those pitfalls. They'll ruin our life story. Someone one time said the chief cause of failure and unhappiness is giving up what we want most for what we want in the moment. Right? And if you and I are ever tempted to take something in the moment that we know it's not what we really want most, let's remember Shakespeare's wise questions. What win I if I gain the thing I seek? A breath, a dream, a froth of fleeting joy. Who buys a minute's mirth to wail a week? Sells eternity to get a toy. For one sweet grape, who will the vine destroy? Moving on to the next 3, I find it fascinating that the recent neuroscience shows that the next 3 elements, we are literally hardwired to thrive on these next 3 elements if we do them often. They are learn and try new things. So novelty exhilarates, animates, and energizes. So let's be diligent about consistently doing and learning new things. And you guys do that. This is the crowd. You're out doing that and living that. There's never a graduation from education. So explore, read, study, ask questions, try new recipes, go to new restaurants, meet new people. Let's get out on a lifelong journey of learning. I love that picture. It's one of my favorite pictures. That's Sandriana in the background. It's Rome and the Vatican. Amazing. Florence, what? Nope, it's Rome, I promise. Okay, so next, they give often. So whatever the circumstances or condition of your life, your story becomes better if it includes giving. We spent 3 heavenly months living in a coconut grove in the Dominican Republic. Every day we'd walk down to the beach. One day, Rachel and I were sitting on the beach and literally asking ourselves, what could we do to help the local community? And as we were talking, a young dwarf boy hobbled over to us and said in Spanish, "Do you have any books for us that I can learn English?" We're like, ding. And so that led to a book drive for his village. I went over and talked to the local teacher, and I learned that her only resource for teaching was a chalkboard. In tears, she said, "I would give anything to have even one book to read to my students." So with some generous friends, we ended up placing over 400 books in a local school and orphanage. We set aside some special books for Chayana and his family. And as we went over to visit his meager home, and his little sister literally had a peg leg, we felt bad giving them a special gift because neighbors and children were watching, and we didn't have enough for everybody. So as we quietly hand these gifts to the mom, she immediately starts calling out to her friends and neighbors and starts handing out the books we'd just given. I was blown away. I was so impressed by her generosity. I asked her, "Why are you doing this?" She said, "Today's my special day." And so I share because I know when I am having a hard time, they will share with me. Giving always enhances your story. 6, those who live an epic story seek and embrace challenge. It's a rough road that leads to the heights of adventure and a story well lived. There will be setbacks, there will be failures, there will be obstacles. Too many of us miss out on life-changing experiences because we're either afraid or we're unwilling to be uncomfortable and challenged. We live in a wonderful time and place of affluence and ease and comfort, but unfortunately some of us have become soft and weak and have slipped into a vapid existence. And we're hesitant to try things outside of our comfort zone. So, some people want the epic adventure, but without the challenge. But as Shakespeare wisely taught us, he is not worthy of the honeycomb that shuns the hive because the bees have stings. Right? Love that quote. So our comfort zones can get in the way of living a great adventurous life story. So push the limits, do things that are so big and scary and adventurous that they keep you up at night and get you out of bed in the morning. If they don't scare you a little bit, they may not be big enough. 7, along the path of those who live an epic story are determined to succeed. Along the path of an epic story, there will be setbacks and failures. You'll stumble, fall, sometimes get lost. The temptation to give up is real, but if living a great life story really matters to you, you got to find the chutzpah to keep going. Author Agmandino said, "Failure will never overtake me as long as my determination to succeed is strong enough." More than once in our unconventional life journey, we've reached a low point where the option of giving up was easy, safe, and probably the right thing to do. Yet every time we kept going. In the face of failure, lack of resources, ridicule from the naysayers, we persisted on because we were so determined to live an epic life story. Living that kind of life meant so much to us that we were willing, even after a great sacrifice and failing again and again, we had to persist forward to make it happen. We refused to quit. So determination to succeed is a trademark for living an epic story. But I have to admit, you guys, there have been many times I've been tempted to quit when I heard for the umpteenth time, "Daddy, I need to go potty." Let's just go home. Okay, number 8, those who live an epic life story increase personal capacity. So now, despite everything I just told you about determination, we won't and can't succeed unless and until we develop the capacity to succeed. So our capacity or lack of it determines the outcome of our lives and limits or empowers us. Let me illustrate. My friend Juan can't swim. And so if I take him 10 feet from shore and drop him in water over his head, he's in deep trouble, pun intended. But if I throw you in that same water 10 feet from shore, you'll splash around, you'll play, and you'll swim back. What's life-threatening for one is fun to another. But if we take all of us 2 miles from shore, some of us are in trouble. And yet my good friend Ka would literally consider a 2-mile swim a meditative workout. I don't know how he does that. Okay? Our capacity or lack of it will limit or empower us. So the difference between Juan's and yours and mine and causability is learning how to do something and practicing. So it's the ability to swim or any other life skill. As a teen, I was timid, I was shy, and I was literally terrified to speak to people. But I realized if I wanted to live a great story, I had to learn how to interact effectively with others. And so I learn and I practice. So I have to ask, what limited capacities are holding us back? It might even be something we don't know we even need to know. What skills would make your life story better? Parenting, education, finances, business, health and fitness, emotional mastery, productivity. We've got to learn to develop those critical capacities for success. Okay, how do we develop those capacities? Well, I don't have time to tell all the ways, but find a mentor. Having a mentor is the quickest and most effective way to succeed on the path you want to follow. So find someone who's really good at what you want to do and who's still learning and growing, and find them. Finding a mentor for ourselves or for our children gives us a gigantic advantage of moving forward to where we want to go. Second, practice your new skills. Our mentors teach us how to do things, but only we can practice. So practicing well gets you there. And then commit to continual improvement. There's never a graduation from education, and there's never an end to growing. Number 9, those who live an epic life story deliberately elevate their life from transactional to transformational. Our 7th baby, Sandriana, was only 6 weeks old when we took her to Morocco. I was leading an expedition out to the Sahara. We stopped in an ancient library with unbelievably precious handwritten scrolls. She was fussy, and so I took her out to walk around the courtyard, a little bit frustrated that I didn't get to enjoy the library. As we were walking around, you can see him in the background, I saw a homeless man with a conspicuous white beard laying prostrate on the ground in his jalaba, the typical robe. And his dejected, hopeless appearance impelled me to approach him, even though I didn't speak the language. From what I knew of Moroccan culture, I thought to myself, I bet this man would love to see a baby. So without saying anything, I walked up to him, I squatted down, and I just held out my daughter to him. His face lit up. Light radiated from his eyes. He reached out and he put his hands on my daughter's head. He kissed her and he started speaking intently to her in Arabic. I keenly sensed he was blessing her. Then he kissed her again and looked up at me and said, "Shukran, shukran, thank you, thank you." I could have kept walking past. He would have been just another homeless man. But I chose in a simple moment to move my experience to transformational instead of merely transactional. Number 10, those who live an epic life story live on a higher plane. I wish I had time to tell you all the unplanned, unbelievable, and unexpected life experiences we've had. But I'll finish with 2 great quotes in this surprising lesson. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live a life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in common hours. He will put some things behind him, will pass an invisible boundary. New, universal, more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within him, and old laws be expanded and interpreted in his favor in a more liberal sense. He will live with the license of a higher order of beings. And again, until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there's one elementary truth which ignorance of kills countless ideas and splendid plans. It's that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. And all sorts of things occur to help one that never otherwise would have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do, or dream you can do, boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. You and I have the amazing and incomparable privilege and power to live an absolutely epic life. Write your story. Reach for it and go live it. Thank you.